Hey everybody, I'm Eggs and Blaken. This is my first video update about my comics project. Today I just kind of want to let you guys know what the working title of the project is currently, why I picked it, and just give a short update about my experience so far and how it's going. So real quick, just to get the not so good stuff out of the way, this is hard. So the original goal that I gave myself was to have the first issue of my comic book completed by my 30th birthday, which is March of next year. So plenty of time, or so I thought. I read comics every week. I read them all the time. I read tons, too many. And I just always think of comics as a monthly thing, sometimes a weekly thing. And so I thought, almost a year, it should be no problem to come up with one issue. I mean, Marvel and DC are able to do it like that. So my one little small press self-published comic, a whole year, that should be no problem. I'm not saying it's going to be. I still hope to be able to stick to that goal, but even already, there's just a lot of stuff that I didn't consider, things that didn't cross my mind that have now been pointed out to me that have definitely been disappointing to learn. I thought this was something that I was going to be able to mostly do in my spare time or on my days off, a fun hobby that I was finally pursuing my dream at my leisure and being able to turn out this thing, and it would just be fun and everything else. And I still think it's going to be fun, and I still think it's going to be worth it for sure. But as far as it just being something I'm able to crank out in my spare time with, little to no mental energy or emotional energy or anything else totally drained out of me, I'm wrong. I was very wrong. That's already become abundantly clear to me. About a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, I posted a status on Facebook about commissioning a cover artist or, an artist in general for the book and just, rates for that. How much that kind of thing normally costs. If anyone had any sort of advice as far as paying a large set commission fee to be able to use that image for whatever I wanted versus trying to make a deal with someone as far as royalties where, as I'm printing more as I need them, they're getting, a percentage of it or a cut of it as it goes, just to keep things more fair. Just sort of putting my feelers out there to see what I should be budgeting for the art and everything. And a Facebook friend of mine ended up leaving a bunch of comments on that status, like a paragraph long each, which, don't get me wrong, I'm super, super grateful. They seem really knowledgeable and seem to really know what they're talking about and pointed out things that I hadn't thought of before. So I am incredibly grateful that they took the time to type that up and let me know about it. But to be totally honest, I was immediately really overwhelmed and discouraged. They pointed out things like printing companies. One of the first things I need to do is kind of pick out a printing company, which is something that I would have thought would have been one of the last steps. But apparently printing companies have certain requirements and specs that have to be fulfilled for them to be able to print it. And that's something that makes a lot of sense that I didn't previously consider. And how much would it suck to have a finished product ready to go and be excited to print it and then find out that the printer that I picked out isn't able to do it. So I guess really one of the things that I didn't realize is I get really overwhelmed with a lot of stuff. And when too much is thrown at me, it's scary. And I get overwhelmed and I get anxious, and it gets really hard for me to stay excited about something or to complete a project that way, because all I want to do is bury my head in the sand and never ever try it again. So the thought of having to pretty much plan this whole thing, even some of the things that I thought would be the final steps in advance so that I'll be able to pull the whole thing off, just seemed really daunting and immediately got me really down. Which is fine. And if anybody out here is watching this and figuring out, watching how I'm doing it so that they can do it themselves, which I really hope, that's kind of one of the main points I'm doing this as a video project, you're going to have those feelings, and it's going to suck. But I'm not giving up, and you shouldn't give up either. It's hard, but if it wasn't hard, it probably wouldn't be as worth it when the finished product's over. I hope. But I don't know. One of the ways that I've dealt with it so far, made it better, is yes, I have to do everything. Yes, I have to come up with a plan. The best way to do that for me is to just, I've been just writing everything down as I think of it or as it's pointed out to me. Just make a list of everything. One of the things that's probably even easier that I'm going to end up doing is writing each individual item on a flashcard. Just get like a packet of index cards, put them all there. Then, once you have everything down, start sorting stuff into tiers. Things that are going to be really hard, that are going to take a bunch of prerequisites that I'm nowhere near being able to do yet, those go in a pile off to the side. Don't even worry about those yet. Things that I'm not necessarily able to just like do and jump right on, that maybe I need to do a little bit more research first, or find somebody to ask me that might have some insight, those go in a separate pile. And then there's the easy stuff. Maybe not the easy stuff, but the stuff that just requires me to sit down and do it, where there's no prerequisites, nothing I need to know, no information that I need to ask anybody. And stuff that fits into that category for me so far. I mean, in this case, for this particular project, I want to get t-shirts made soon. Just so I have something. Right now I'm wearing a very good drag queen t-shirt, but I want to be able to have like my Eggs and Blacon logo shirt to wear in the videos and everything else, just to make it feel a little bit more better, make it feel a little more cohesive. So that's something that is really simple that I can do and at least feel like I checked something off my list. Because sometimes you just need some small victories to go ahead and make you feel like you've got a little bit of progress going, even if it's not the end-all be-all. But another important thing towards the comics project that I've done is I'm really focusing on this first issue right now. I definitely have 20 more issues worth of content in my head that I'm going to end up planning, but right now I'm trying to really zero in and focus on this first issue. And this first issue has about 4 main characters. 3.5, 3.5. One of them's kind of a big deal, but you're not going to find out much about her until like the second or third arc of the book. So that's probably years into the future. That's not anytime soon. But the characters that you're going to be dealing with directly right off the bat, one of the best things that I've been able to do with them that's actually really fun and got me really excited about the whole thing is writing down who they are. How old they are, what color hair they have, what type of clothing they wear, what their fashion style is, what's something that they always have on them, no matter what. If they were to join a book club, how would they react to that? How would they act at a book club meeting or something like that? That's one of the things that my mom pointed out to me when I talked to her about it was, or maybe it was my best friend Eric, probably both of them. They're the two people that I've been sort of bouncing ideas off the most. And one of the things that got pointed out to me along the way between one of them was to think of just random situations and imagine each character in your book in that situation and how would they act. This is the kind of thing that when I finally find an artist to do the work, that I'm going to be able to show that person and say, this is kind of who they are. Sort of give the idea, paint a picture of that in the artist's head so they kind of see, they become more intuitive as to who the character is. They get to know them a little bit. So as they're drawing them, they already know, like, this is the kind of face that they would make. I don't have to be too specific. As a writer, I definitely care about the dialogue. I care about the characters. I want this to be great, but I don't want to just sit there and dictate every single panel what the art's going to be like. I definitely want any artist that ends up coming onto this project with me to feel like their voice is a part of it, feel like their vision is a part of it, and that their thoughts and everything else in the whole thing are relevant. I want them to be just as much of the process as I am. I don't want this to feel like a chore for anybody. I want them to be super psyched about it and enjoy it and fall in love with these characters the way I've fallen in love creating them and the way I hope people fall in love reading them. This really is a project of love, and this is something that I've always dreamed, and I'm super excited about it and super passionate about it. And these characters, I've been writing them since I was in high school. This is not a new concept for me. I've had this rolling around in my head forever and just spent more time consuming content than I've actually thought about creating it. So this is a passion project for me, and I want anyone who works on it with me to feel that exact same intensity as me. So I really want to be able to paint a picture with them. I want to just make sure they have everything possible. Another suggestion that I ended up getting was to create a Pinterest and have a board for each character where, as I'm just kind of looking through Pinterest, looking through pictures and everything else, I can put that on their board if it's something like, oh, that's totally something they would wear. That's the kind of hairstyle I pictured, or this is this kind of thing. I can just go ahead and add that to their board and just be able to share that with any artist that I come across that ends up joining the project with me. I can show that to them and let them really understand who this person is so that I don't have to tell them what to do. They'll be able to know the person the same way that I know the person and draw them naturally and organically. And And I think that'll really translate onto the page, and that anyone reading it is going to be able to feel that understanding of the characters and be able to get just as excited reading it as I've been to create it. So even that's just been super easy. And when it's stuff like that, I mean, it's really easy to get discouraged and overwhelmed with an undertaking like this. Whether you're creating your own comic book, your own video series, literally anything. I mean, just going to work, getting up in the morning, leaving the house. I mean, sometimes, regardless of what you've got going on, anything can seem kind of daunting. But if you break it down and you just start off with the parts that get you excited, that get you the most amped up to go ahead and go forward, that stuff makes a difference. Another great way to do that I've kind of found, like if I start to get overwhelmed or hit kind of like a weird block in anything, one of the best ways to do that, I don't know who my artist is going to be yet, and I'm super, super excited to find them. So I have been consuming just little bits here and there in my spare time, all sorts of other small press independent items. There's been like great, just like here in Chicago, there's a ladies' night anthology that comes out annually through a Graham Crackers Comics location in the Loop, which is downtown here in Chicago. And just like reading stuff like that, some of the anthologies they have, these are incredible women who are doing this themselves. They're writing these, they're drawing these, everything. And you get to see this. These are people who are doing what I want to do, who are achieving my goals. And one of them could end up being the artist that ends up helping me do that. This could be someone who could end up being a future partner of mine. And that's what I'm hoping for. So right now, it's kind of like window shopping, except super fun. And relevant, and it's something. And I'm not saying you should totally let yourself get self-absorbed in that, because that's not a good way to do anything. I mean, like I said, I want to create content, not just keep consuming it and not give anything back. But that's one way that has helped me a lot. So now that I've got some of the disappointing stuff out of the way, the stuff that's left me frustrated, and just sort of how I got over that, just a little bit of fun stuff to talk about, I guess. The working title that I'm going with altogether right now for the series, and this is not set in stone, I'm not totally married to this idea, but I do really like it. The comic series itself, I kind of am leaning towards calling Just Us. Probably isn't going to knock your socks off when you hear it. Doesn't sound super special. This is something that I've considered a lot, and with the tone of this book, eventually this is going to end up being a group of young people who all have one thing in common. They feel like they're not quite fitting in with everybody else. They all have some form of superpower, but this is not the Teen Titans. This is not the X-Men. They are not a superhero team. I want this book to very much be a marriage of my real life and all the experiences that I've had, that you have, that anybody has as they're getting older, whether that means teenagers in their 20s, whatever. There's going to be characters of all ages introduced in this and a part of this team. And comic books, which have always been an escape for me and something that I'm excited about, because sometimes you just need to leave the real world for a second. But a lot of that, it's a lot of tights, it's a lot of flights. It's not exactly what I'm looking for. It's been done before 1,000 times. It doesn't mean I don't love it. I just don't feel the need to contribute any more to it. I really want something that's sort of the best of both worlds, that meets it right in the middle, where I can really put out my vision for this book, because I'm that. I'm a little bit of the real world and a little bit of the comic book world. A lot of comic books have helped me cope through a lot of hard times in my life, and I've applied a lot of what I've learned from comic books into my real life. So I'm very much the middle point between those two universes, and that's what I want to create. So Just Us, they're not called the Justice League. They're not called the Teen Titans. They're not called the Avengers. They're just us. They're just normal people. Except they're not that normal. But who is? So at the end of the first arc, when that finally rolls around, there is going to be this moment where it's going to be like a light switch, where you're going to instantly understand, like, oh, just us. And that is something that I want to completely set the tone. No matter how crazy or outlandish or any of these characters seem, or the events that they go through are how unrealistic or anything else, everyone's going to think it's the craziest thing ever. And that's a lot of pressure sometimes. And when it comes down to it, I want these characters to just kind of step back and be like, this might seem crazy to you, but this is just a Friday for me. this is just us. We're not anything crazy. We're not anything special. We're just us. And I mean, it's going to become more specific. It's going to become more clear once I actually create that content and people get to read it and everything else. I'm hoping. But right now, that's what I'm going with for the time being. And more will be revealed as I come out with videos. Not only that, so this is just like a video diary kind of thing. This is kind of just like a super chill, casual forum that I want to have where I'm going to be focusing more on just little personal things that I've been able to do on my own where I haven't had to ask for a ton of help or have someone guide me through it or anything else. This is just me pouring my heart into these characters and the process of doing that. And sometimes it's going to be frustrating. Sometimes I'm going to be really disappointed, and that's going to make me want to make a video series. I just want people who are watching this, anyone who might be wanting to undertake a project like this themselves, I want them to be able to see it and watch it and see that it sucks sometimes, and it's fucking hard. And that's life. Sometimes life sucks. Sometimes it's hard. But you keep doing it. And in the end, I believe, and I hope that the end result makes all of this bullshit that I'm going to be talking about in the video diary sometimes completely worth it. And I don't want people to think that this is just a cakewalk or this is fun or anything else. It is fun, but it's also hard. And this does require work. It doesn't come for free, both literally and figuratively. But that's what the video diaries are going to be. However, the actual video series itself is not going to be like this. The actual video series at this point, I'm going to be calling Eggs and Blaken's Comic Kitchen. I'm cooking books. It's going to be like this slogan thing, hopefully, probably. It's kind of dumb. I like it, so I'm doing this for me first and foremost. So that's probably what I'm going to call it. That's going to have a little bit more video editing quality. That's where I'm going to actually bring in people and interview them and talk to them who have done this kind of thing before. This is going to be people who are maybe just artists and have never created a comic book. These are going to be people who have created whole comic books for themselves. Might also be like actual comics creators that work for Marvel or DC. There's already been a couple people that I'm in touch with that I'm going to be trying to get on the show. And they're cool dudes. And they're creating like really big selling comic books that are coming out from major, like the big two publishers. So I'm really hoping that I'm going to be able to get them on and get some really cool insight for them. There's going to be a lot of content coming your way. I'm really psyched about this project. And I hope other people are too, even if it's just a couple right now, even if it's just a couple ever. If one person ends up watching all these videos and gets something out of it and feels something and is able to accomplish their comics goal because of watching me go through it and being able to kind of figure out how to do it and do it for themselves, I will feel completely accomplished with this. Hell, even if I can just pull it off myself, I'll feel completely accomplished with it. It's hard, but I'm confident. I'm really excited about this book, really excited about this project. I'm really excited to share it with people. So if you're doing something similar, it's not always going to be easy, but nothing ever is. Nothing worth it anyway. So stick with it, and stick with these videos, please. And hopefully I'll see all of you guys soon with even more news. Thanks for watching.